Hi, Drew. Hi, everybody.
The first half of that conversation, I was like, oh, I'm really relating to that with my 8-year-old daughter who's going on 14. But then I'll never let her leave the house. I've already told her, there's a college down the street from our house. Just stay
Everything
with me.
within walking distance. Yeah, everything has to be close. Believe me, those scenes are always the hardest ones for me to shoot because especially I love Isaiah so much. We're so close. So that stuff is always the really difficult stuff because we hate to have any kind of strife in our life. But, apparently it happens with teenagers. I wouldn't know anything about that, but.
Your character doesn't always make the best choices. And sometimes it's fun to pretend to be someone who is unlike you and you can live vicariously through. But one of the things that really struck me is that you don't want to stay stuck. You want to keep growing as a human. How do you balance that reality, non-reality?
For me, especially with Annie, I think being a child actor, I always sort of played the wise kid who really was a little ahead of her years. And for me, one of the big joys about playing Annie was she had a child as a teenager and her growing kind of stopped there, or she sort of chose to stop looking. And for me, that was really interesting because she kind of was a perpetual teenager and she's kind of the spontaneity of the group. She's kind of the reason they do the crazy things that they do. And so I really love that about her. But I also, of course, love anything and any character. For me, there has to be some form of growth. And so for me, that's been a really fun part of this character is sort of just somebody who's a little reticent to let go of the things that have kept her safe and kept her feeling light and fun, So that's been a fun journey because I think normally my characters are I'm so spiritual. I can't wait to see what's on the other side, as opposed to this girl who's kind of I don't want to grow up past 17.
Well, speaking of growing up, we both grew up in the business. What's it like growing up in the business for you? I think it stunted and advanced me at the same time.
It is exactly kind of a mix of what you say. I think in some ways you grow up around adults and there's a serious maturity that happens there quickly. And luckily, my family was very devoted to trying to keep me a child and make sure that I didn't feel pressured into doing anything. And they were very cautious about it the whole time. It was always something they were almost a little are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. But I think what you're saying, in a lot of ways, I became really comfortable growing up with adults and you do become of the responsibilities of being an adult really early on. And, while other kids are sort of wow, let's go to the mall or whatever kids do. And, you're kind of I'd love to, but my call time is 6:30. That's real. That's what I have to do. This whole school thing and everything else is a little, I'm not so sure anybody even cares. So I think in that regard, then, for example, fun fact, I can't ride a bike. And this is something my dad's going to kill me for because he thinks I'm always blaming him for this. But I can't ride a bike straight up. And I think, so in certain ways, I'm terrible with laundry. I'm not a really great cook. I don't understand certain normal home person, human being things. But then there is this experience inside you that it's almost really difficult to explain. I mean, it's a very specific upbringing and a very specific tone. So I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I do think it's fascinating now that I'm in my 30s and really delving into deep therapy, just seeing, oh, that's interesting. Those are some interesting things I never would have noticed. It's just a whole different upbringing.
I'm freaking out. I really am having an aha moment because I've talked to a lot of people who grew up in the business, but I haven't thought of it in the parallel of, it's true, you have to be at work at 6 a.m. when other kids are going to school. But then when you're on a set, there's a lot of things that are done for you. And so you don't grow up and learn things as fast. And by the way, God bless anyone out there who dates male actors of a certain age because, oh my gosh, whoa, it's they can't get their own coffee.
Where's my wooden stake and cross and garlic and all that?
And then I feel bad because I'm oh God, I wouldn't want someone to look at me and think actor because I know.
Sure they must.
It's happened. Believe me, I've had guys tell me, oh, I would never want to date an actress. And you're thank you. But there is a certain everything gets taken care of with actors. And yet, if you're a child actor, you are responsible, you are bringing home the bacon, you're paying the rent sometimes for your family, you're showing up to work on time, you're rehearsing, learning lines. It is such an odd mismatch dichotomy. That's almost where the cross comes in again, is you're catapulted into adult responsibilities while like weirdly living a very bizarre life where, whoa, Mae.
Now as an adult, I almost have this like running ticker tape. I'm like a total workaholic. I think I use it as a defense mechanism sometimes because I'm like, I'd love to look at myself and make myself better, but gotta go to work, you know? And I think there's like a real tendency to just like work, 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 because I don't think you quite understand knowing how to get home and turn off and understanding what's work and what's play and what's rest. And I think even in the best of scenarios of growing up in that industry in that way, it can be really confusing. So then when you get older, you're like, I mean, when I didn't work for all this time, I was just sitting here being like, must put the stuff on fold the towels again because it's my job, you know? So I think it's been interesting to kind of take those pieces apart and see what I can let go and what's just childhood anxiety trying to keep me safe, you know?
You're right. And I thank you for being another human trying to figure out life and yourself in a profound and wise way. Good Girls airs Sundays at 10 p.m. on NBC.